Good morning. Thank you, Rick, for asking me to do this. I don't know why they asked me to do this since I'm only 17 years old and I don't know anything about exercise and aging.
We're the same age.
Oh, we are the same age. You can already tell it's going to be a fun group. This is supposed to be a very conversational kind of panel. We're going to talk about activity and aging and healthy aging. And so I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to introduce our panelists. We're going to have a short video from someone we asked to be a panelist, or the committee asked to be a panelist and couldn't be here today. And then we will just pile in. We've got some questions to get us started. And if any of you have questions at any time, I encourage you to chime in and ask the panel. We've got a great panel here with us. I'm going to start on my far left over here. This is Lydia Dubuisson. Come close. I butchered her last name a couple of times. She's an assistant instructional professor here in the Division of Sports Management, and she's a board member on the Brazos Valley Senior Games, so she can talk to us about exercise and aging from the organizational standpoint. But a little bit about Lydia. One of the most interesting things is that she was an equipment manager here for the football team in 1992 to 95. She was the first female to letter in football here at A&M. Pretty cool. She's also played 2 years for women's tackle football team. She's coached 3 years of high school football, been a sports anchor reporter, so a lot of background. And with her experience with the senior games, I know she'll bring a lot to the panel. To my far right is Dr. Susan Wagner. She's a clinical assistant professor here, and she's the coordinator for the kinesiology teaching certification here. She has a bachelor's degree in physical education from SUNY Cortland, a master's degree in physical education from the University of Colorado Boulder, and a PhD in curriculum instruction from here at A&M. She does a wide variety of activities, yoga, Pilates, swimming, CrossFit, walking, and she rides a bike for transportation, right? Yeah. So far so good. On my left here, this is Dr. Mike Sandlin. Dr. Sandlin is a clinical assistant.
That was on the line next week. I remember that on the final.
Now I know what they feel like on The View. Dr. Sandlin is a clinical associate professor with a bachelor's degree in PE from West Alabama, a master's of education and recreational administration from the University of Arkansas, and a PhD in kinesiology from here at A&M. And his specialty, as far as sports goes, are all kinds of ultras. Well, and he said, and marathons. Every once in a while, you'll step down and do a marathon. Yeah. So this is Ultraman here next to me. Is Dr. Camille Bunting. Camille is an associate professor emeritus. She was the director of the Outdoor Education Institute here and does a wide variety of outdoor activities for her exercise. She has written the book on outdoor activities that's still available actually on Amazon.com and a variety of other places. And so I'd like for you to join with me in welcoming our panel. As we said, we've got a short video here from Bob Ellis, who was a Hall of Fame golf coach here for 27 years. And anything else you want to say? Just a great guy, great teacher.
One thing I can really notice is slow down. I can't run. I mean, I can, but it's pretty painful and just don't want to do it. But I do a lot of walking. I play a lot of golf, and when you play 18 holes of golf, you're walking 4 miles. And I have a push cart and push it, and that really helps. And then the workout here is pretty extensive, picking up ball barrels and all this kind of thing, and just the teaching and what's required of class keeps you in shape as well. And being around young people, there's just nothing you can say more about that. That really helps more than anything else. Find something. It can be just, I think, as little as walking, a couple miles every day. Do something to go ahead and keep yourself in shape. I tell my students that start now and get a regimen going, and that will keep you for the rest of your life. Having been in the military, it teaches you too the importance of being in condition, and try to teach that to the students. But people who have just retired, if they haven't done it, they need to have some kind of a regimen done. See their doctor, see what they're capable of doing, and then set up some type of a program either with a trainer or on their own. Charlie Milstead used to be a quarterback here. He was All-American quarterback with Houston, or one of the first quarterbacks, the Oilers. And Charlie did a lot of running and everything. He said the best exercise for him was swimming. It's the easiest on the body. The golf, when you play, of course, as I said earlier, you do a lot of walking, and that's good. I like that. It's a form of exercise, and also you're doing something besides just running or just walking. There's a challenge going on as well, and that's good. People say you can't learn when you get older. You can. You can learn. You can go ahead and get good instruction. You can go ahead and, now you're not going to be shooting par golf maybe, but you won't be going on tour, but you can shoot a game that's, it's presentable and it's enjoyable for the person doing it. I think they're signing a death warrant. I think you're going to just die early, or much quicker, unless you've just been blessed with great genes.
Anything else you want to add?
Play golf.
So what a great start. I want to start with a question that we had a list of questions that the committee came up with, and what I'd like to pose to the panel is if you could each speak for a moment about what motivates you to be active, and what is the feeling you receive from being active. It's so easy not to be active. We'll start with you, Sue, because I'm looking at you.
Okay, well, for me, it's not easy to be inactive because I just don't feel good if I'm not active. I don't feel right if I'm not active. And that's maybe because of a long history of being active. I've been active my whole life. And so basically, it's mostly for my health, so that I feel good. So I can pick up my granddaughter when I want to, so I can do the things that I want to do without being hurt and harmed and, feeling bad. So it's just so I feel good. And I actually, a lot of people say, well, I'm too tired. Well, I'm too tired when I don't exercise. When I exercise, I am not tired. And I am really feeling pretty good. So keep me alert.
Ms. Camille, you're next.
Well, I think that I was born wanting to be active. I strained my first quadricep when I was probably in the 2nd grade, climbing up a mountain outside of Bandera, Texas. And why they let me climb that mountain, I'm not real sure at that age, but I did, and I've always wanted to be active, and not just exercise for exercise's sake, but to do the things that I love to do. And so I feel really blessed because I enjoy it. I enjoy the activities, and I would much rather play golf, do things that I think are fun to stay in shape than to go to the gym. But I even like going to the gym most of the time.
So I'm hearing so far
I'd rather do stuff.
I'm hearing so far that you guys are active because you like being active. It's fun.
And I feel sorry for people that don't.
Oh, yeah.
And that don't have that background, because I think your body knows, like, I can get out of shape pretty fast now, but I can get back in shape much faster, I think, than someone that has never been active.
Right. So what motivates you to run all those miles?
Well, it's just part of getting up in the morning. You brush your teeth. Most of you brushed your teeth this morning. Yeah. I've just always thought being active, whatever it is, if it's playing tennis or going out for a walk or riding your bike or whatever it is, playing a little hoop in the backyard, it's just part of a daily routine, just like brushing your teeth and having a meal during the day. And if I'm like you guys, or like most of you, if I don't do it sometime during the day, I feel bad. And so it's not just motivation, it's just part of my life. I mean, something just comes natural.
Inner drive. Inner drive. So Lydia, do you see that with the senior athletes as well?
Well, we have all kinds of athletes actually with our senior games, and I certainly see that. We have some amazingly competitive individuals who would, I don't want to insult anybody in here, but if you took them on, they'd probably beat pretty easily a lot of people in this room. So there's some pretty impressive athletes there. And then we also see people, I talked to a gentleman one year who had, his knees were just really bad, but he was doing every track and field event that he could possibly do because he had told his grandchildren that they could achieve whatever they wanted to in life, and he wanted to prove to them that that was the case. So even though he was, borderline possibly had a disability, he was still doing everything. He jumped even the bottom bar on the high jump just to do it. and to say that he could do it. So we see all types for all different reasons. I think for psychological reasons, to prove to their grandchildren something and to themselves that they can still go and do things despite injuries, and just to stay competitive, because sometimes when you have that competition, a lot of you in here are athletes currently or have been athletes, so you know that you work out a lot harder when you have something to look forward to as far as a competition. So that kind of gets you through those times, and I think that's a motivator for a lot of our athletes.
So, but what I've heard so far is it's kind of an inherent part of your life, and you have this drive to be active. Can everybody develop that? Let's say that we have somebody that has been inactive for 45 years, and all of a sudden they say, "Well, I want to be fit." Will they develop this drive, you think? Or is this something that you guys have just been born with?
I think that they can develop that drive if they get to a certain point in an exercise program. If you don't get to the point where it makes you feel good, you never get the drive, I think. And so for us, because we've been doing it all our lives, from childhood for us, then we know that feeling, and that is part of us. But if you are the person that's been sitting around all your life and you're now 50, and somebody says, "Hey, you got to exercise," unless you go out there and get to a certain level where it really feels good to you, you're not going to persist.
It also sounds like the key also is to pick something that you enjoy doing.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Would all you agree with that?
I think it's important not only, I agree with find something you're interested in, and I always suggest a variety of things. If you tell me to go out and swim every day, I'd probably do it for a week and then I'd get kind of bored with it, but a variety of things. And, basic principles that we're all aware of, especially if they're older, is really start out nice and easy and just gradually work into it. So, because at your age, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to get injured, and it seems like it takes longer to recover. And so I think it's really important to start out nice and slow, find a variety of things they enjoy, and I think a lot of people who think I don't want to exercise, if they can find something like that, they may change their attitude towards it.
I'd encourage the audience, if you have any questions at any time, feel free. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys, have you ever been made to do anything physically that you didn't like doing? Push-ups, run laps? Sure. What did that make? How did that make you feel? Kinesiology 121, we hear from the audience. A slow wave of recognition there. So, and I think that's been one of the knocks on physical education for a long time, is that people had to do things they didn't want to do. And so I think what we're hearing is do something you like. Once you start doing it a while, it'll become a passion for you.
Well, I think too that a lot of people that start out, they like different things. They like to do, they like to read or cook or sew or piddle around in the garage. They don't know what they like activity-wise. And so I think it helps to have a friend that can introduce you to some things. And, I think this is ideal maybe, but, a couple of weeks ago we had such gorgeous weather, low humidity, cool temperatures, and we have a wonderful park in this town, south at Lick Creek, and if you have a dog or a donkey and you want to take them out, let them walk around with you to get outside. I'm definitely prejudiced, but to get outside and walk in an environment like that, not on a treadmill, boring, and not in a neighborhood where you're just getting reflective everything off the pavement, but in nature, you're getting reflections of nature, and it's going to have a different effect, I think, on your physiology. And you'll have good experiences. So to get started like that and to do that with a friend.
Do you think people adhere more to exercise if they do it outside as opposed to inside?
Oh, I do.
Well,
especially if they're getting started, and I think the physiological response is different too.
Okay, waiting for questions, but we'll keep going here. So how do you balance your workout with work or family responsibilities? That's always tough.
The older you get, the harder it gets, I think.
Does it?
I think so.
In what way?
You get more responsibilities.
And now, all these folks in here think they've got a lot of responsibility already. This man right here in the red, he's got lots. No. So it gets tougher as you get older, because you have more responsibility.
For me, it
More
did.
things,
For me, it
there's
did.
more things vying for your time. But to me, if I don't take that time for myself, then the rest of it is garbage. It doesn't work well.
I think it has to do with kind of redefining what's important, and those are things you have to have. Exercise is something that you have to have. So you make time to eat during the day, you make time to sleep maybe a couple hours here or there if you're really busy. But it's one of those things, I think, in all of our case, that it's become so entrenched in our lives that we're going to do it regardless. So it's kind of like I can't imagine getting through the week without at least numerous exercises. To me, 3 days a week, that was a bad week. You know, like, wow, I better get on the ball. But that's because it's such a part of my life that it's like eating. I have to exercise. I got to do something, even if it's a walk in the park. You know, which I still can't sell myself as exercise, even though I know it is because it's so easy and enjoyable. That I can't tell myself it's exercise. I have a hard time with that. I always feel like it's got to be painful and horrible.
See, that attitude right there was the same thing that affected me. I had spondylolisthesis, and in 1980, the first thing I had to give up was racquetball. I thought I would surely die. And then gradually I had to give up other things, and then I had to give up running in 1995. I'm going to go walk. I mean, what a pansy thing to do. And so I didn't. And now I do. And humility comes with that kind of experience. So.
We're going to come back to that, not the humility, but the injury aspect of this in a little bit. But I'm going to, Mike, since you've been relatively quiet here. So
I'm just quiet.
So how do you make it a priority in your life? Because that's what we're really talking about, is making exercise a priority in your life.
And that, sometimes, I mean, like what you guys are saying, that can be a real challenge. Because, you know, the first thing, your first responsibility is making sure you do the best you can at school. It's parking chairs over there. But, no, I mean, you get so busy with everything, like what everybody else is saying, you just have to make time. Be it, like I have some friends that, well, my wife, she gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning, she goes out and walks. Do I like walking at 6 o'clock in the morning? No, I like sleeping at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so that wouldn't work for me. So, but there's been times where if my day's going to be really busy, I'll make myself get out and do it. Because I feel like once I get going, I'm all right. It's just getting out of the house. And so you just have to make the time. Because surely we have 30 minutes somewhere during the day, during a 24-hour day, to squeeze in some exercise. And like what you guys are saying, maybe I might not go out for a run or go for a bike ride or whatever, but I may go out and walk around the block with my wife or something like that. And I feel like this is not exercise. But my wife walks really fast. But it's a challenge. As you guys know, here with finals coming up and all of your papers coming up, it's hard to squeeze in some time. You just have to make it, you just have to be disciplined to do it.
So when you do that, is there a sense of accomplishment that comes with that?
Oh yes, especially when it's over.
When it's over.
Yeah, not when you get up, but yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Sometimes when you're just so busy, like what Susan was saying, well, all of us experience, you feel better when you get back from your workout than when you began, because you're like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm too tired, I'm not going to do it. You get back and you're refreshed. But I think when you really are challenged to find time to exercise and you do it, I get the best sense of accomplishment. Even if it wasn't the toughest workout or the best workout that I've done, I feel like, hey, I did it. I didn't stay here and take a nap.
Do you guys get a sense of accomplishment when you exercise? Yeah, a lot of nodding heads. So that's certainly a good payback. It's hard to get going, but once you get going. We had a question right here.
For our age group, it seems more common to try different activities, to be sporadic in what we do, but is it easier to settle into a routine once you get older?
So the question was, at the younger age groups, there's more sporadic activity, but as you get older, is it easier to settle into a routine? Anyone want to take that one?
I don't know that it's easier, it's just necessary. So for you, your time is not always the same. You have different schedule on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you have different things going on. So a routine is maybe not as conducive in your particular life. But when you are graduated and you have a job, there's an automatic routine. You go to work at 8, you come home at 5. And then, that's all you work?
I know.
That's all I work.
Division chair. Or department chair.
Punch a clock, but that's what I do. But at any rate, so my time, I'm the morning person, and that's my routine, and I've been doing that ever since I had little tiny children because they were sleeping. I went out and worked out, and back then I could run, and I don't run anymore, but, I would do it before they got up. So it's by necessity. You're going to find that once you have a set routine that is dictated by some other thing like your job, then you're gonna become more regular about your exercise.
You said you have children, right? What about during pregnancy exercise?
Yeah.
How about exercise during pregnancy for everyone that couldn't hear?
Okay, am I the only one that has that experience?
Well, what I
Yes.
will say, we'll let them.
Absolutely. Throughout all of my pregnancies, I exercised. In fact, the first child that I delivered, I went into labor after I got out of the swimming pool. I knew that I was in labor when I was in the shower after my swim. So, yeah.
The research I read about pregnancy and exercise, well, it's something you think about, when you're having a child. Not me having a child. Everything I've read is like, as for should you exercise during pregnancy, yes. You don't want to participate in contact sports or things like this. But if you haven't been exercising, and then you find out you're pregnant, should you start an exercise program? Basically what I've read is you should wait until after you have your baby, because there's so much physiological changes going on with the baby, with the exercise. It could be some possibilities of things affecting you. So that's what I've read. I'm sure we have some more experts on that.
I would say if you're interested in that, we interviewed the renowned expert on pregnancy and exercise, a guy named Jim Provarnik, on the podcast. Go to huffhinesinstitute.org, and that podcast is there. huffhinesinstitute.org. And we got to put a plug in for the podcast. But yeah, so there's certainly some good information out there on that. huffhinesinstitute.org. I'll tell you more later. Yes, sir. We have a question.
What advice would you recommend to us for going into graduate schools, like medical schools, when we don't have any time? We're doing rounds and we're...
Run down the
Use the
hallway.
steps.
Transportation.
Use the stairs, that's a good one.
take stairs and do push-ups.
There you go.
Yeah, transportation. I mean, you have to get from one place to another. You can bike, you can walk, and you do a lot of walking when you're on rounds. And take the stairs.
Hard walk on rounds.
Yeah.
You get through them faster too, right?
Can I make a comment about
Sure.
the first question having to do with schedule? Do you tend to get in more of a schedule when you get older? And my experience is that if you ping around now, you will continue to ping around your whole life, because that's your nature, that's your tendency. So I think really now, looking back, is a great time to try to establish some kind of routine, because I had experienced it getting easier to have a routine in my life. So, because it's just
So, one of the things you said, Camille, a while ago is that you've had to change your activity as you have gone through this wonderful thing we call life. And for the rest of you, what aspect of fitness is hardest for you to maintain as you've aged? Balance, endurance, muscle strength, and of course you can pile into this as well. Have you had trouble maintaining anything like that?
Oh, yes, everything. The challenge to me has been, I've been involved, I don't say much about it because that's kind of a personal thing, but I've done ultra marathons for a long time. I did marathons for a long time, just gradually worked up, and it's been fairly competitive through the years. And as I've gotten a little bit older, I've noticed that my times are getting slower, but I'm still putting out the same effort. And so it's a real challenge to, I have friends that, that were really good athletes when they were younger, and when they start slowing down stuff, they just quit. They do something else, or they're not. I'm like, no, I want to compete. Even if I'm last place, I'm going to be out there competing. So I've been real fortunate in that I don't see any one thing that's really, I still feel like I have okay on power and balance, and flexibility's never been any good. But I work at it. It's just a gradual slowing, and it's attitude that this is cool. I mean, I love, I do a lot of adventure races, things like this. It's just fun. I mean, my wife says a lot of times she feels like she's married to a third grader. And I take that as a compliment.
Camille, you had said a while ago that you changed your activity. Did you lose any of those components of fitness when you had to change your activity? Do you feel like you've lost balance or endurance or muscle strength?
I feel like I've done this. It all kind of goes, and then it comes back. And of course, what comes back is totally dependent on what I do to get it back. And if you don't work on your strength, you won't regain strength everywhere. If you're doing aerobic exercise, you're going to gain strength in the muscles that are providing the movement for your aerobic exercise. But it'll be maybe a different kind of strength. I haven't noticed one thing going faster than another. They all kind of do that.
Now, do you think that what's helped is your cross training? All of the different things that that has helped to maintain?
Absolutely. One of my biggest challenges in life is bone density. I know that I have a family history and actually a personal history for osteopenia and osteoporosis, and so I work really hard at weight training to keep my bones strong. And the cross training, as you said, I do yoga and I do Pilates. Both of those help me maintain the core. So when I do weightlifting, I don't hurt myself. But I have noticed that I can't lift as much weight as I used to be able to. And I work out in a gym where probably the oldest person is half my age, or close to that. There's not a lot of older people in my gym, but I just scale everything that they do, and I just do a little bit less. I do the same movements, but I do less. They're jumping up on boxes this high, my box is this high. But I'm still jumping, so, that, it changes, you modify, you do a little less, but you keep moving. And I wanted to bring something to you all. My mother, who is 88, is my model because she's still very active. She plays tennis, she plays golf, she swims, lifts weights, does all of those things. And I said, well, so Mom, what should I tell all these people about an 88-year-old doing all this stuff? She said, you just got to keep moving. You just got to keep doing it every day. And pretty much that's, I think, the key. So to find something you like to do and keep doing it.
Doug.
A direct question to you. You were just sharing with us here about the boxes. Do you find that parametrics is really important as far as also flexibility and doing more of what you're doing?
Yes.
The question was plyometrics, and is that important as you age?
I think, what they're working on in my gym is that explosive power. I don't have any need for it. I'm not doing jump shots anymore.
Right.
But I think it helps my balance.
Yeah.
I think, I haven't hit that huge balance problem that a lot of older people hit. And I think that's part of it, because it's not you're not totally stable in that jumping activity, and your body has to react, and I think that helps.
Can I do a follow-up?
Sure, absolutely.
Also in your weight training, do you find that, and all of you in fact, that weight training really plays an important factor in your life in terms of bone density, as you say? And that it's not all about going up and pushing all this weight.
Right.
Allison, did you find that in your training for your cross training?
So the question was, is resistance training important for older athletes? Lydia, do you see that in y'all's older athletes that you deal with the senior games? Do most of them are still doing resistance training?
I imagine the ones that are excessively competitive probably do the routine. They train, they hire people to train them, or they themselves are trainers and people hire them to train them. But I would say I can probably address that from a personal experience in a way, because I'm at a transitional point in life where I'm going from having been one style of exerciser to going to another, because of actually something you touched on. It was necessity. Like, why am I spending 2 hours lifting weights anymore? I don't need this. And I used to be really bulky. I know it's hard to imagine, but I used to have big, like 13-inch pipes and stuff like this. I used to train really heavy in weights. But what I was going to say is that that foundation of weightlifting hasn't gone away. So no matter what activities I do, I still have pipes. Like, I'm always going to. And so when I go to start training and strength training, like I did some CrossFit for a while, and yeah, that stuff comes back like this. It's a little bit of hard work getting to it, but it does come back very quickly. And I firmly believe that that foundation of weight training really set me up for a good future, even though that's not my top priority to train in weights anymore. I do weight bearing activity, but I don't have to get into a gym anymore. I can create things to do in the park with body weight and things like this. But yeah, as far as weight bearing activity, it still does play a role, but I think it was foundational in setting me up for a healthy lifestyle for the rest of my life.
And I think it's an important point for everyone in here to remember is that no matter what age you are, resistance training is still great for you. It's been shown over and over in the literature that people can do simple things like getting up out of chairs if they continue to do resistance training. That's really important for folks as they age. So do you incorporate any weight training?
I do some. I do. I know it's hard to tell, but a little upper body.
But you have pipes.
Yeah, I do. I was going to say, if you want to compare it, please don't. But no, because a lot of the activities I do are more lower body function, and so what I found that if I do just a little bit of upper body work, I feel much stronger, and especially in the later stages of an event, whatever it is. So I usually work out maybe once or twice a week with a little light upper body. And what I found when you get older, even though the weights, I'm kind of like you, it's pretty pitiful. But what I do is when I leave the station, I just move the pin down lower. And go to the station. They don't know about that.
I do that too.
And we can see your pipes.
Well, I used to have them. They're still under there, so.
I never thought this would degenerate into a pipe contest. I'm not taking off my coat. So this is an athletic injuries class that deals with, I'm sorry, there was a gentleman who had a question, yes?
What age range do you find that you have to start dropping the intensity of your workouts?
At what age range do you wind up having to start dropping the intensity of your workout?
I see people at 65 still trying to do like 225 and stuff like that.
If they can, I guess so. What do you think? And now you're talking about intensity of a resistance exercise, or
Yeah, pretty much all workouts.
All workouts. Okay.
You'll know after you injure yourself.
You guys done this. He'll take anybody on.
Yeah.
So, well, that brings up a question, though, a good question. Have any of you had, and Camille, you talked about it a little bit earlier, have any of you had an injury that has made you change what you do and maybe think about it a little differently?
Yeah, I bet we all have. Well, maybe not Mike. I bet you have an injury.
Now, I've been very lucky. But I think part of it, the reason I've been really lucky, is and I'm sure we all feel this way, I really listen to my body and what it's telling me. And all my life, I've never, people you say, what days do you run, what days do you take off, you take Fridays off or Sundays off or whatever. I say, I don't have a routine. I listen to my body, and if I feel like I'm getting tired, or I feel a little tenderness somewhere, I may take several days of real easy training, and I'll back off. I just try to stay in touch with my body, so I really don't have a routine as for a schedule, and I think I've been blessed that way. I've been lucky. So, probably the worst problem I've ever had, I'm going through it right now, is a little plantar fasciitis in my right foot. And I've been battling that for like the last 6 months, and it's getting better. but some mornings I get up, I'm like, ouch. But I just suck it up and do it.
Yeah, a lot of sucking up.
Yes, ma'am.
So y'all kind of been touching on this and like going away from it and stuff, but so obviously you can modify pretty much anything that you do in terms of like to adjust for any injuries that you have and like aging and things like that. But what about really sudden onset like disabilities, things that can attack the muscles themselves that cause like constant pain, lost all of your independence, and then like you have zero motivation. So how do you like get that motivation in there to even begin to start modifying training and things like that to keep what you have left going, things like that?
Did folks in the back hear the question? If you have a debilitating injury, how do you get that motivation back or regain it to start to work out again?
You're talking about a serious debilitating.
I'm talking things like polymyositis and polymyositis and myasthenia gravis, the two of those specifically is what I was interested in.
I don't have experience. What I find like Mike is I just listen to my body when things are not feeling quite right. I change something about what I'm doing to not. Right now I'm working with the shoulder. Ouch. You know, something hurts here, so I'm not doing above my head lifts. You know, staying everything down here, and I'm not doing a crawl stroke right now because that hurts. So breaststroke. You know. So just I modify, and I wanted to address your question about intensity because I still do high intensity exercise, but it's relative. You know, it's relative to my physical capabilities. You know, I push myself pretty hard for a short, intense workout, but it's not nearly what the younger folks in my gym do. You know, I don't get the times and the scores they get, but I get my own. You know, and I just do what works for me. In terms of a debilitating disease, I'm not sure. I don't know what I would do with that, to be honest with you.
And that's a tough question, and I think, you know, in the training that many of us have had as clinical exercise physiologists, that's when you work with the client to find out what their goals are, and that's when it's so important to have someone there to help them. It's very difficult sometimes to be self-motivated with that. Chris Woodman, you're in the audience. You teach some of this stuff in your classes. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
The aspect that hasn't really been discussed here is the social interaction. So a lot of folks with disabilities are going to be more motivated to exercise if they do it in groups. And so, for just to use an example of my parents, they're very active, but one of the things that they do is with a group of friends, they'll walk from their home into town, they'll have lunch, and then they'll walk back. And that accumulates about 3 miles for them. And so they incorporate the exercise input activity that's very social in nature, so it makes them much more likely to do that on a regular basis.
And that's an incredibly important point, is the social aspect. Lydia?
I was going to springboard onto that because actually I looked at Doug and part of the service of the senior games really is to provide that opportunity to socialize for our seniors, and that was one of the things I was working on a TV commercial one time for us, and I ran it by the board, the script that I had written, and the board said, hey, you don't have anything in here about the celebration of athletes, and most of the people on our board are also senior age that could compete or do compete in our games or coordinate our games. And I said, you know, I thought about that, but I was trying to get so much into the commercial that I thought, well, I just have to cut this out and cut that out. And then the board said, no, we really need to put something in there about the Hall of Fame, or not the Hall of Fame, the celebration of athletes, which is when everybody gets together, we have a meal together, and they kind of like, they bring in their signs and they dance around, like this is the racquetball group and this is the triathlon group, and they just have a blast, and we eat together, and you know, and it's a lot of fun. And so they pointed that out. They said, you need to put something in there about the social aspect. And then I realized at that point, that actually is at the top of that list. So as much as being healthy and as being a competitive thing so that they can strive to have a goal other than just, you know, working out one day for no other reason than just to work out, is actually that social component. And that's one of the reasons that we do really press this and look for, we try to generate more awareness so that more people do know about it, that they can have this opportunity to meet other people in their age category so they can train together, make friends, and just have fun. So that's a lot of what we're about as well for the senior games. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
For the panel here, how much of nutrition plays a very important role?
Huge.
Question was, how much does nutrition play a role?
Yeah, if we don't talk about nutrition, it's not
Good point.
complete. Yeah, it has to be. You have what you eat, what you put into your body. Because you can't do activity well if you're not eating well. So, yeah, your nutrition is really important.
Can I have a follow-up? As an ultraman, ultra-triathlete, I'm sure that you have probably a special menu, or maybe not. But as an ultra marathon person, and you know, we sometimes really go through some ritual on what we eat as far as nutrition is concerned. Do you have a menu that you do at home to maintain your caloric intake, and it's also your output when you're out training, coming back to replace, and then when you're out actually competing?
Boy, I'm not a good person for that. Well, when I'm more serious about it, which is generally in the summer, because I'm not as busy, and that's when I do a lot of events, early fall. I'm real careful about, this is going to sound weird, but I want to make sure, I'm not a big meat eater. I like meat okay, but I just don't eat a whole lot of it. I have to really work hard to make sure I'm getting in protein in my diet, because I feel like protein is very important for my muscles. And so you always hear of carbo loading and all that, which I think is good, but I really work hard on making sure I get enough protein when I'm training hard. So I have, like all of us, and what I've found, and we've all found as we age, sometimes that metabolism slows down a little bit. You have to be real careful.
And your hydration, when you're out there, your hydration also plays a big factor.
Yeah.
Do you just drink water, or do you have other type of, as we know on the market, type of hydration?
I drink mainly water, but if it's a really long workout, you know, if it's 3, 4, 5, 6 hours or whatever like that, I definitely have to take some kind of, for example, Gatorade or something like that. Something that has some electrolytes in it. And if it's a long workout, I actually take a little bit of food with you, because on endurance sort of things like that, you know, a lot of blood goes to your stomach to digest the food. And if you train eating a little bit while you're working out, I think your body adjusts to that a little bit. And because some of the events when you're out there all day, or 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever, you have to eat. You have to take it in. And so if you don't do it in training, your body is a big adjustment during a race. So nutrition is important.
I probably prioritize it higher than I do even physical activity, which might sound strange, but if I'm gonna, some days I might not work out, but I would probably be eating pretty well for the most part. And it's just the results that I get from the nutrition are so much more oftentimes than like work. I can work out all day long and not lose weight, I feel like. But if I modify my nutrition and eat properly, actually, that's when I start losing weight. It's weird. Maybe that's just me personally, but I do very prioritize my nutrition even over my working out.
You know, there's an issue with seniors in particular, maybe not getting enough nutritional caloric intake during the day. I mean, you see commercials for Ensure and a variety of these different things. Do you think by having a regular activity program that actually may stabilize their intake, or stabilize their nutritional intake, or do they still have to have those supplements? Or?
You know, I don't know about the supplements. I do know if you're not eating enough calories and you need something. And some people find that they don't care about eating anymore when they get older. Now, that doesn't happen to me.
Well, you think is that a result of your activity? I think that's the question I'm kind of going at. Does activity have positive benefits on that?
Increased activity does help your appetite. You know, I think when you're aging, your appetite does decline because you don't need as many calories. But if you're physically active, then you definitely need the calories. And I want to just echo what Mike said, protein. You know, protein is hard. It's hard to get enough protein when you're aging. And I find that now and then I need a protein shake or something that, you know, is a little extra zap, because I just don't eat enough to do that, to get the protein that I need. So, I don't have that problem.
I'd like to go back just a minute to the social thing that was brought up. I have a friend who was very active, you know, in her younger years, and developed heart disease, and horrible knees. And she had to greatly modify her activities and suffered pretty severe depression as a result of that, because she had been accustomed to being so active and she didn't know what to do because of these problems that she had. And I think that's a big issue. You know, when you're accustomed to being active and then you can't, and you don't really know how to modify, it's a big thing. And, you know, like I said a while ago, walking, you know, is that, you know, because you can get good aerobic exercise from walking, but it just takes longer. You know, you go out and run 2 or 3 miles, you can be done with your workout in 20 minutes, and sure can't get the same exercise of walking in 20 minutes. So.
This gentleman had a question.
What about prevention of overuse injuries? Because I've been running since I was 12, and I have really loose ligaments in my ankles, which has caused knee problems and IT band problems and lower back problems when I run. And my doctor said that I'm probably going to have arthritis by the time I'm like 25 to 30-ish.
Well, that's a cheery prognosis.
Yeah, and it makes me want to go out and run a lot. But just like, how did you prevent injuries when you run and everything? And when did you have to really notice that maybe you cut back or stopped or modified your running, especially with like form and everything?
Did you guys catch that back there? Yeah, good.
I stopped running when I was about 56. I mean, running distances, okay? Because knees hurt, you know, and it was just, I had to stop doing that. But I can still run. I mean, I can run a mile here and there. I can, you know, run away from the thief that's chasing me, whatever. You know, and that's, you know, that's important to me. You know, be able to take care of myself. So, you know, if I need to run, I can. But I could not do anything like what Mike does. I mean, even a 3-mile run comfortably anymore. So I stopped.
So how do you prevent injuries though in what you do?
Yeah,
Just know when to stop?
You listen to your body, and you know when you say, okay, this is bothering everything, I gotta do something different. And the fortunate thing is there are tons of different things you can do. You know, I mean, a lot of you might say swimming, yuck, but boy, I tell you what, I love swimming. Swimming is a godsend. It doesn't hurt your joints, except my shoulders now, but but for the most part, you know, it feels good. And when I go to bed at night, I think about, I'm going to swim tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that, you know, and I get up in the morning and go swim. So you just have to shift and adjust and listen to your body. So it's saying, ouch.
You know, attitude is such a big factor. I mean, I have a friend, and Dr. Kreider knows him, David Horton, back at Liberty University. He was really a very good ultra-distance runner for years and years and years. And about a year and a half ago, he had some knee surgery. He had some problems. He went through denial and all that, as most of us would. And he cannot run any now. I mean, 0. It hurts his knees so bad, and the doctor said he can't do it. And he doesn't want to do it because of pain. Well, this summer, this was a year ago, last summer, where he had this problem. This summer, he's doing a mountain bike race on the Colorado Trail, which is like 500 and something miles. He's just, his mindset is, okay, I can't run, what else can I do? So he's doing that this summer. He's crazy.
Dr. Horton's Forrest Gump. He has the world record for running the Appalachian Trail, 1,300 miles and 1,500 miles in 34 days or something. He actually has run across America. And we were at a ultra endurance talk, and we brought him in to ask him, how in the world do you do this and why? And did you get tired? See, I got tired in Utah. It's, well, how'd you get through it? One step in front of the other. Forrest Gump. Okay, so it's pretty cool.
You know, I mentioned a while ago that I have spondylolisthesis, which is a vertebrae, I think it's L4 or 5, that's in 2 pieces, and it's actually probably congenital. I didn't discover that I had that until 1980. Had to quit playing racquetball. 10 years later, I had to quit running, but I was in denial, and I was in severe back pain for quite a while because I just refused to do it. And you know, the people that continue to do things hurt themselves. And not everyone is constructed anatomically so that they can do a particular activity without hurting themselves. And the people that discover that early, I think, are fortunate, because a lot of people end up with debilitating injuries, so.
Tim, can I have something?
Good luck.
I was a college football player, right? I thought I was indestructible, right? 8 iron, lifted weights, all this stuff, right? And I went through high school, really no injuries. Got to college, and I remember my first year feeling like I was Charlie Brown the first time I went against somebody that starting, just rolled up and 30 yards down the field, and said, what in the world? And you go through, and you still think you're strong, and you can do things, and all of a sudden my knee got hurt, right? And then I had my shoulder go out. And so I got done, and I was real strong and all that, and I psychologically had my shoulder done my senior year, and I lost so much weight and so much strength in the upper body, I couldn't even, what I could warm up with before, I mean, I could barely lift with my shoulder. So psychologically, I couldn't lift. I mean, I couldn't get in the weight room and think, you know, I can't even lift this a little bit. I'm going to have to warm up to that and do it, 25 times. And so I had to shift. And so I started working and had Dr. Horton, who was a professor when I was undergrad, an ultra guy, and I started doing studies on triathletes back when they were really kind of new. And these guys said, man, those big old legs, you'd probably be a good cyclist. Right? And for an offensive lineman, I was back when they let short linemen, 40-yard dash was ultra endurance to me. I mean, really, 20 yards, I was good. After that, it was in slow motion. They timed my 40 by days. And so I actually had to change because it was a new challenge. Oh, why don't you get a bike? Guy lived in Bars bike. And I went out and I went up one hill and turned around thinking, man, they'll never be able to do that. And they talked me into it. And I started going and I went a little longer, and then I could do 5 miles, and I got to 20 miles, and they talked me into doing one of these dumb triathlons, right? Oh, I'm like a Clydesdale. There's a Clydesdale division in triathletes for like 185. They're not 240 pounds trying to do this, coming out of the water. But it was a new change, a new challenge, so I got about 25 or 30 of them over for about 7 or 8 years or so. Then it got to the point where I could get back in the weight room. Because now my mind was I wasn't strong like I used to be. So now I really like to lift weights. But now I used to be able to do a lot more running. My knee can't handle it anymore, so I got to do more walking. And I had the same psychology of like, man, this is like... So now I go up a real the high treadmill, just work real hard, so at least I feel like I'm doing something, right? But now I can get back in the weight room. So it changes as long as you still stay active and you adapt. Psychology can do that.
What's interesting, if you'll note, the stories and the injuries that we've heard so far are all orthopedic injuries, right? Which you guys are all learning about. That's the great thing about dealing with master athletes, is in particular you deal with orthopedic injuries, not things like cardiovascular disease and diabetes, which is what you see in the general population. So you start working on the general population, you have to deal with those things first, and then you go from there. And you had a question, we've got a couple others in there. You were first.
Sleep versus exercise, and why?
Sleep versus exercise, and why? We'll start with you, since you said you like to sleep, but you might sometimes give it up just to go exercise.
Sleep versus exercise. This sounds good. See if you guys understand where I'm coming from. Listening to your body. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, does that make sense to you? The general population, I don't have earphones. I can't listen to it. There's been times I thought, I'm really tired. It's like, would going home taking a nap be better than working out? I mean, we've all been there. And I don't have a answer to that. You just have to go work out, and then you won't be sleepy.
So your advice is to ditch something else so you can do both?
No. What would you guys say?
I go to bed early. I get 7, 8 hours a night. I get up early and I exercise.
They're like,
That's hard.
It's hard when you don't go out until 10.
It gets harder and harder to stay up. Like some of these issues I can address from being 36. I'm pushing 37 now. So those questions y'all were asking about, when you peak out and that sort of thing, I can tell you at my age now, I could still kick my 26-year-old butt if I wanted to. So I'm still like okay in that regards. Sleep was the first thing I noticed though, as I started getting into late 20s, early 30s, that it would just destroy me. The less, if I just stayed up too late or all-nighters or whatever, for whatever reasons, it just would take me days to recover. And at this point, if I were to get like a couple hours sleep, it would probably take me about 5 business days to actually recover. Like to know that, oh wow, okay, this isn't kicking my butt anymore. But that's one of the first things I noticed was that sleep was just more and more and more vital, and I could hear it. I could hear it. Before it is, you know that it is. All your bodies know that it is. But you're a little bit more resilient right now, but that goes away real fast.
What's interesting,
FYI.
What's interesting, a lot of the activities I participate in involve 24, 48 hours or so continuous activity, and so sleep deprivation is part of it.
You gotta practice.
And so maybe I'm just kind of geared to that because I find myself as abnormal, which a lot of you that know me say, yeah, he's abnormal, I find myself, I take a little nap in the afternoon, like 30-minute nap. It's hard for me to go to bed before midnight. Now I think a lot of it has to do with the things that I do on the side, because a lot of times you don't get much sleep in the activities. It's crazy.
Do you nap when you're running?
Does he nap when he's running? Is the question.
I'm going so slow it looks like it.
I just wonder how much, how can we do more? What kind of, to reach all people, all types of population?
Is that for me first?
Well, it's one, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you look at it from a marketing perspective, our target market is seniors 50 plus, and so that's where we put our time and energy. But you're right, they are dropping off. In fact, in Texas now, we only have three other local games?
3 regions.
Right, so we opened the state games to everybody in Texas because we want to be inclusive. And if you qualify at 3 games, then we're going to have like 10 people at our events, So we opened it to everybody so that they would have that opportunity. So it's really opportunity first. But you're right, those opportunities are going to the wayside because of, several reasons. One could be economic times. 2 is you're talking about a big volunteer scenario, and all of us have jobs, so there's only so much we can put into our organization. So when it comes to working first or doing other things first, then the senior games, unfortunately, is going to drop off. And so we have seen that happen. And we've talked about some of the ways to change that, turn that around from our state level. So hopefully we're able to do that. But it needs support. And that could be support from you all volunteering, or you might have connections to people whose target market is 50 plus and they want to sponsor our games. But those are, it takes money to make these things happen. And none of us are pocketing this change. It's not like that's going into my bank account or Doug's. Heck, money comes out of his bank account. So, it's just real crucial to get that support, whether from volunteers or helping to generate sponsorships or that sort of thing. But it's just going to take that massive force of people. And I can really only address our 50 plus target market because we barely have resources for that, let alone, unfortunately, for younger categories. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I was talking about this aging group too.
Has anybody in here ever seen or gone to senior games? Okay. If you've never been to one, let me encourage you sometime. If you go, it's nothing like watching a 70 and over 100-meter dash. It's amazing. It's amazing. It fires you up. It's like, that's what I want to be when I'm 70, 75 years old.
I want to be that now.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it's really motivational. I would encourage you to go. It's just, if it doesn't excite you, then something's wrong with it.
Well,
it's really fun.
And to springboard on that, if you all want to help, one of the nice things you can do is go home and talk to your family, friends, neighbors, aunts, uncles, moms, dads, grandparents, and say, hey, we have the senior games. You don't have to be a super highly competitive athlete. I told you the story about the gentleman with the bad knees, and he was just doing it to feel a sense of accomplishment and to prove to his grandchildren that you can do whatever you set your mind to do. So if right now, if any of you all want to help with this endeavor, spread the word. go tell people. Come to our website, brazosvalleyseniorgames.org, and I have a couple flyers too. We can use your volunteer time. You can help in that respect. But if just everybody here went and told 5 or 10 people to come and sign up for our games and come into town and visit you even, it could just be, hey, come visit and compete. Then we're actually, how many more people do we just have sign up? How many people are in this room? So that just alone, by you helping tell people, your friends and family, that would help tremendously to help against the problems that we're having with the games getting diminished and going to the wayside.
And the national games are in Houston.
Yes, oh that's right. The national games are in Houston, everybody. And so there's opportunities to volunteer there as well. In fact, one of my former students is helping to run the show over there because he volunteered with our local games. And so if anybody's interested in that or our local games, definitely see me afterwards.
When is that?
Here, the state games are from June 2nd through June 12th. So they are during the summer, and there's reasons why we set it up that way. Unfortunately, a lot of you are probably going to be out of town, but if you're not going to be, or if you want to come back, or if you live nearby, feel free. But they're the 2nd through the 12th, and we have a number of different events to choose from things that are a little bit less demanding physically, like we have washers. So, I mean, y'all could go home and tell your, aunts and uncles right now, because I know y'all play washers at Thanksgiving. You're like watching football playing washers, and horseshoes, and, So we have a variety of things. Did you want to know that?
I'd like to,
This is my president, by the way.
I'm Dr. Van, I'm the president of the City Games. I just got an email that College Station June 13 has been chosen as one of the torch for the, to start off the national games. Excuse me.
Oh, nice.
Start off the national games. And what has happened here, because A&M has been the national champion for the ladies here, J.D. Woods, who is actually one of my members here, we have worked together with the basketball team, with Coach Blair. We're going to do a torch run right around Reed Arena instead, passing the torch and going down to Houston, which I would love to do with you, sir.
I would love
that'd be awesome during the summer. You can dance anything better. But to run down, instead of running to Houston, we're going to do it around Reed Arena on June 13th. So they are competing in all the different areas to run this torch to start off the national games down here in Houston. I think this is the greatest thing. I've talked with Mr. Coombs, and JD is heading up all this here, so there's a big involvement and a big push to answer the ladies here in terms of the seniors. It's tremendous, and I'm very proud to be part of that, because Brazos Valley need to be proud of that, because we are really pushing the envelope, because next year will be the national qualifier here in Bryan College Station.
So we're running a little bit short on time. We have one last question for the panelists that the committee asked me to ask, and then we have Dr. Bloomfield is going to come and tell you a little bit. If we have some time after that, you can ask. We can talk to the panelists separately. But the last question I have for the panelists: what would you like to do that you have not been able to do yet?
The thing that I'm going to do in the future, it's not what I like to. I'm going to take a long, long bicycle trip. I mean, I say that I ride my bike to work. Y'all see me, I'm a crazy person on the bike, but I want to take a long, 2-week long trip on my bicycle. That's what I'm going to do.
That I haven't done.
Anything, something that you want to do that you haven't done yet?
I just want to do more of what I have done.
Just to
I've
continue?
done a lot. So, yeah.
Okay. What?
Go skydiving.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Lydia?
That's a good question. In terms of physical activity, huh?
Yeah.
Because there's other things that, I want money, lots and lots of money. Let's see.
Don't want to hang around here if you want a lot of money.
I've been skydiving, but I haven't been Rocky Mountain climbing or riding a bull yet either. So I haven't done that cliche yet, right? Coached college football. I'd be good. So physical activity, I guess find something that I could do and still enjoy all the time forever, because I love to wakeboard and snowboard, but I can't do those two things at the same time, and I always have to have access to a mountain or a boat. So I have found things that I love, but I would really like to do something. I guess find something that I can do all the time that I truly want to get up and go do. So you've all talked about that, and I'm a little different in that respect, because sometimes I'm still just barreling through like I've got to exercise to exercise. So I think I'm still looking for that, maybe.
Cool. Let me introduce Dr. Bloomfield. Many of you know is one of our professors here. She's going to wind up here with a short 2 or 3 minute story about one of the master athletes around here.
Yeah, and I highly recommend the bike ride from Missoula, Montana to Jasper and back, although it will take you more than 2 weeks. I did that 25 years ago, just before getting married. It was a pre-wedding adventure. Well, I very much appreciate Dr. Lightfoot's willingness to let me come in and share with you just a short story about one of my personal heroes. See this? This is Jess Coons. Jessie Coon was, as you can see here, a swimmer. This was his Christmas postcard from the year 2000. And he's showing off his haul, his usual haul of gold medals, won at US Masters Swimming Nationals, which was held in Maui that year. He was probably one of the most medaled athletes in the Brazos Valley. He would regularly attend national and world championships and almost always come back, and at our Unitarian Church Sunday mornings he'd come back and say, well, I did some swimming this last week, and came back with about 3 gold medals. So it was phenomenal. This man swam in college at Indiana University and then dropped it, as many of us do after his college years. Went off and got a PhD in physics and ended up here at Texas A&M as a physics professor. Back in the days when they didn't even have air conditioning in the classrooms. Stayed here, retired in I think the 70s, and then picked up master swimming. Master swimming is age-graded swimming for everyone from 18 and older. But he started up with that, with the whole organization really got in gear in the 1970s, and he found his love of swimming. Really enjoyed how he lost some weight, he got more competitive, really got into it, but he was never the cutthroat competitor. He would go out there and say, well, I think I'm having a good day, I'm feeling all right. And other days it was, well, could have done better, but I had a good time. And he really epitomized for me the spirit of master swimming and many of these master sport levels. You get all sorts of competitors. Some are in it just for fitness. Some are in there for the high-level competition. Some train 3 hours a week. Some train 20 hours a week. You get a huge variety. But he really epitomized for me the joy of physical activity. He just loved to swim. In fact, I know Doug here swam many a workout with him, mornings at AeroFit. He would give generously of his time and advice to people who were just getting started in swimming or wondered, well, could I really do that? I don't swim that far. He said, oh, sure, you can do this. You don't have to be, first in your age group or even, you can be the slowest swimmer in the pool, but you'll feel much, much better after you swim a mile. And so he was our Gulf District of U.S. Swimming. He had Southeast Texas created an award, Jessie B. Coon Award, given each year in our district at our zone championships to that swimmer who best epitomizes Jessie's love of the sport and support for others. So he's one of my personal heroes and somebody I hope to emulate. This man was swimming into his 90s. The only thing that stopped him was a cancer diagnosis and radiation and surgery that really slowed him up. But one of the most inspirational swims I've ever seen was when he came to the meet named in his honor, that's held at AeroFit every year, and swam 50 yards. He was slow, but that didn't matter. He was great. Thank you.
All of you for being here today. Please join me in thanking our panelists. I would encourage all of you to talk to these folks. They represent a huge wealth of knowledge. Introduce yourself to them and introduce yourself to Doug Maine, who's on the front row, who's an internationally ranked triathlete. Thank you for being here.